This conference will now be recorded.
We'll open this emergency meeting of May 10th, 2023, time being 4:56. Let the record show Selectman Jessamine and Selectman Ruggles are unable to attend.
It's going to be tonight. Good.
No comment. Okay, we are here to discuss the downstairs, the ceilings, and I'm going to let you take over on this one, Jeannie.
Okay,
Explain what's happening.
so you recall that the board hired a company to come in and do the lead abatement project this week, Wednesday and Thursday, with testing on Friday to make sure that all there was no residue left over. They got here today and started the work, and I got a call probably around 9:30 or 10 from the company saying that the project, it was much more of a problem than they were aware of, that they had anticipated. That the ceiling actually, so you have the drop ceiling, and then above that you have tin that was nailed to plaster and horsehair.
Mm-hmm.
And while the lead paint and the tin was peeling, the horsehair plaster was letting go, and it was dragging the tin down. And their concern was that it was actually a very dangerous situation for everybody on the first floor. Pat was here when and met with the company, and they actually went into the hallway, got up on the ladder, looked through the drop ceiling and looked down the hallway and could see more of the tin lead plaster horsehair dropping down. And in this room down here, you can see it from the edge of the wall coming like this down. And it's just disintegrating. It's what she said to me is, this is beyond our capabilities. This is way more than what we anticipated, even for the small space. And she said the problem was that when they started to do the work, everything's connected.
Mm-hmm.
So if you try to pull down tin in one area, it's connected and you're going to pull it down everywhere else. Plus there are wires and cables that are going up through the tin that somebody's drilled up in through the tin. And as it's dropping down, there are wires underneath it. It's pushing on the wires, the cables that are in the ceiling. So she said she was stopping. She was not comfortable going forward. And we met with her. She gave me the names of 2 other companies she felt like could do the job. I spent an hour and a half on the phone with one of them this afternoon. They seem very capable. Alpine Environmental out of Chelmsford, Mass. And the second one is EnviroVantage out of Epping. And I've talked to them. I haven't talked to one of their people yet, but I had a long conversation with the one gentleman who said he couldn't make it here tonight. I didn't know that you'd be ready to talk to him anyway, but he may be available later in the evening if you had questions for him. But I think right now it's not a matter of that unless you have questions for him. We did have, you recall, we had testing done by the Lawson Group, which looked at asbestos and lead and said they didn't find any asbestos, but this was just in Gail's office. They did find lead, but it wasn't the right in-depth analysis. So then we had to go back and have, it's called an XRM, I think, analysis, which showed very high levels of lead in the area. And that's what they were working on, was a lead abatement and they were going to pull down the tin, and that's when they stopped. So this other company seems very knowledgeable. I thought it, and I still don't know. He's going to come on Friday to look himself to see in person. But it sounds like I had in my head that it was going to take like months to, or at least a month to get somebody. As hard as it was for us to get somebody the first time to do the work, it took us quite a while to find somebody who would actually come. Maybe now, because it's such a big job, all downstairs ceiling, that there's more interest. I don't know, but
So the bottom line is, once we know now that it's a safety issue and it has to be taken care of with the entire downstairs, we have to prepare to move people out of those offices, including everybody downstairs.
Yep.
When we looked at it, and Kevin, you and Kevin can vouch for this, it was sometimes 2.5 to 3 feet away from the ceiling in some places that was just dropped down. In Gail's office particularly, you could see that the plaster was dropped. And the person that was there, Caroline, there's about 3/4 of an inch of plaster on those lathes. So if you took a 10-inch square of those plaster with the lathes with 3/4 of an inch of plaster on them, judging from what, 10 feet high or no, it must be 15 feet high where they are now, dropping, that's going to be, somebody's going to get hurt. Just even a square like this dropping with that much weight on it.
Usually the wooden lathe, though, is much more secure. The plaster is
Not,
so the wooden lathing is no longer attached to the.
no, some of it's not.
It would,
Wow.
if I may.
Go ahead.
Prior to this, it was, I remember John and I had both viewed the area that we're talking about, months ago. It was really hard to see the gravity of just how bad it is. And until today, when when the lead workers removed the insulation and the ceiling tiles, once they cleared the way of all that material, we could really see
Wow.
just how bad
How
the
do you
conditions
smell
are.
it took a bath.
So
Look at that. Ooh.
the
Okay.
so yes, right now I noticed today that there were numerous old wires. I'm not sure if they have current running through them or not, being stressed by the old ceiling coming down. And there's sections of lumber up there that has spikes showing through. So there's a impaling hazard if something was to fall through. So it's a very dangerous situation that definitely needs to be addressed. And the correct, complete way to do this is to do the entire first floor. And with the discovery of lead in the paint, it should be an entirety of a project. The entire first floor should be taken
So
care
someone
of.
that does this work along with lead abatement.
Exactly,
with
demolition.
abatement.
So in my opinion, the correct way to have this done is remove all of the furniture, have the suspended ceiling removed completely, not just the ceiling tiles, but the entire grate system. Then have all of the compromised material suspended until it can be removed safely, one section at a time, to avoid that cascading effect of pulling on one side and then the whole ceiling comes down. Then obviously we need the reconstruction. We need the company in here that can actually rebuild back to where we want it for our office space. So it's going to be quite a project.
What do we do with our employees?
Well,
They have to work from someplace.
Tim has a plan. Tim and I have been talking about this all day today, trying to figure out where to put everyone. And I think he's got a proposal.
Well, so we discussed different options, namely because of the access to certain applications. So the town clerk, deputy town clerk, in order to do motor vehicles and access to Avatar, also for land use, they need to physically be in the same area accessible to the server. So, so for me, it's somewhat problematic because we talked about moving the deputy and town clerk up here and what that would mean in this space here temporarily. But quickly kind of ruled out for a number of reasons. One is that one of the companies Jeannie was talking to was concerned about things falling onto the servers and the difficulty of maintaining a system where you have cables that are running through ceilings throughout the building, that something that happens over here could result in a disconnection over there. So it's really, it's our phones are not an issue. We're all voice over IP. You can unplug the town clerk tax collector's phone here and plug it in another similar spot here or at the PD, and it will pick up the same extension and work that way. So what we looked at was the accessibility and use over at the PD for this temporary time, be it what it sounds like, it could be several months or more that maybe this would be taking place. So and also just if you think about the number of elderly people that come in that would have to, make their way up the stairs, and there really isn't a secure place up here for any of the things that the clerk needs. They've got to keep their, so many things locked up, safe and otherwise, for their license plates, decals, and not to mention cash. So what we had determined was there are two people that work in one wing of the PD currently. And the reason for selecting this area is that I can code the doors in such a way that only town hall people have access within the town hall space. It's somewhat self-contained and can also be keyed for the door that would allow them to get to the bathrooms and back in that area. It also would mean that anyone that's handicapped or elderly would come in the front lobby and be served through the front lobby. And that's essentially the looking at this area of put out in red, which is the area between the front lobby and the booking area. So the records and reception area is a perfect place for the clerk that is actively working on citizen registrations or vital records or any such thing, because it is accessible right off the lobby. It has a window. It has, a pass through there. And there is room for at least one clerk's desk in there, along with the counter system and all the things that go along with the counter system, including the ability to put a small safe in there, which there is currently. I don't think it's up to the standard that the clerk would need, but and then using the polygraph room as another office, another clerk office. So you'd be right across the hall there for the clerk, and those are both lockable rooms, as well as the halls. The front and back halls are surveilled and 24-hour monitoring. And that door that you see between the records reception and the polygraph room, that would be the main entrance for town hall staff, or the door over by the bail bondsman, one of those two. And then you have the ability, the interview room would still stay an interview room next to records reception. The PD would still need that, but the other interview room could be used as an office that opens into the bullpen, as well as currently the office for the detective. So you'd really have to relocate 2 people on that whole wing elsewhere in the building in order to accomplish that. But this would house the primary functions of land use and town clerk tax collector in there. And then in the admin area over on the right-hand side, currently there are 2 offices that are vacant, actually 3 offices that are vacant. Of course, it would, the chief would need to be consulted as to where the one office personnel would be relocated. But in the original plans of the building, the architect had drawn that large administration area as having 2 desks on either side of the doorway. Perhaps you remember that, Pat. So that's what we would look to do for the administrative assistants for both the PD and the town hall. The town hall.
Keep in mind, he has training scheduled almost the whole month of July, I believe.
That it's not impacting the training room.
Okay.
With the exception of meetings, night meetings, which they don't go into the night for their training. They typically haven't. I don't believe there's any scheduled. But in any case, so there would be room for the selectman's office within this administration area, without displacing anybody in that location. You also have the entire fitness room that is used less frequently, but with a My Box, that equipment could be moved out temporarily while, if there's additional space needed. And then what I would be doing is, besides relocating the phones into the building, we'd also be taking the servers over there in our firewall, because the clerk and deputy clerk still need access to the Department of Safety for their transactions. And we're already set up, and because of the way the fiber is located first to the PD and then to town hall, it couldn't be a better situation for us because it won't require any reconfiguration on that. We just hook up our firewall and our servers in that room, and we would reestablish these connections within this red squared area to be on a separate network, accessible only to the town hall systems. The criminal justice information system requirements are that you keep your police and non-police networks completely separate, and this would satisfy that requirement.
You're intending here in the red square, if I heard you correctly, for land use and town clerk tax collector. But aren't there specific rules and regulations with the DMV not to have a commingle in other offices with here, it's particularly here in town hall, we can't have a commingled office because of the DMV decals and plates and so on and so forth. We couldn't have that in commingled with any office, never mind land use.
You wouldn't. So
Okay.
all of that would fit in the records reception room currently. The only thing that might not is a second desk. So where someone's doing, their office work or.
So her entire office would be in the records reception room, would be the town clerk tax collector?
I'm pretty convinced that will fit an entire outfit for the clerk, as well as the clerk's supplies, and a safe in that room along with the clerk counter system.
Okay.
Not 2 counter systems, but 1 counter system. And then the polygraph room or the other interview room would be the secondary office, all of which are lockable. So, or maybe they would opt to share the office. That's the records and retention office. We haven't spent hours and hours studying this, but those are all lockable areas, so that people wouldn't be commingled with any of that equipment or any of those supplies.
And when you say lockable, they would not have codes to get in that building. I would not have a code, you would not have a code, you would not have a code to get into that building. It would only be the town clerk and the tax collector to get into that building.
For that office.
For that office,
Yes.
particular
Right.
office.
Yeah.
Would that satisfy DMV?
I can't even conceptualize this yet because I'm hearing one safe. And we have more than one safe downstairs, and not to mention all our files, and that's before you consider stuff in the vault, which you could probably leave if we can have access to that periodically. And then we got stuff out in the hall that we use too that's locked. And my head is, I don't do space well. So a small box means not much room, which doesn't make sense. However, one desk and one countertop.
But then you have another one across the hallway for the deputy.
Or it may be those two small rooms are the offices for the deputy and the clerk, and then you fit your safe, your two safes, or the big safe and the safe with the license plates in there, and then you would have room for file storage in addition to the counter system.
Could we get something in replace of that temporarily? You're not going to move those out of here.
The big safe
Well,
you are.
that's
Right.
why I was thinking that it would probably make sense to have something, that
That you can
we would
secure.
rent or buy for.
Secure.
Because that one big safe is not going anywhere.
It has been moved before, but not easily.
Not to the
Across the room.
Yeah,
Exactly.
not easily.
Exactly.
Yep.
Has the chief been consulted with this?
No, but I can tell you, looking at their space, so I'll tell you the other advantages here. You're going to save on utility bills during the summer. It's a small advantage. There are, it's not going to be easy, but from my perspective and from a service perspective, looking at it as a citizen, I think it's a lot easier to say we've temporarily relocated to the police department, for these services until the town hall is reopened. And then whatever you run into here, if there's something else you run into, you can get it fixed without having to move anything else. Because what if during this process of, dealing with the first floor, they find something else, which of course never happens anywhere.
So is the proposal to completely close town hall second and first floor?
I was just going to ask you that.
I was
Is
just going
it
to as
land
well.
use and sewer?
Well, we haven't talked about sewer, have we?
Why would you close the second floor?
Well, do you want to speak to that?
Well, I just had a thought of the amount of construction going on downstairs would be so disruptive to their work environment up here. I know I wouldn't want to hear
The air.
the air conditioning has to be shut off, airflow.
But aren't these also air conditioners and heaters?
But they go through the wires and things go through the.
The noise.
And they have windows.
Go ahead, John.
Noise.
Could we take a recess and go downstairs, take a look?
We can, if you want.
I don't
I don't
know
know.
if there's a
Maybe
ladder.
this-
Well, I mean, most of this is hypothetical right now. Until that fellow looks at it Friday, we really don't know what
Oh, there it is. Do it
exactly
again. One more time.
he's going to propose.
That's true. We don't know if
If they, I assume they're going to, just because of the materials, Kevin, please tell me I'm wrong if I am. I presume they're going to come in and take the drop ceiling completely down.
Oh, yes.
And then they'll attack the tin ceiling completely. They're not going to start in this part of the building and then work their way through. All right. So the bigger question is, we can move our offices, but where do we have meetings? There's a lot of meetings
At the
that take
PD.
place.
At the
They're going to be
EOC.
at the PD.
Mhm.
And we haven't consulted the chief.
Chief's not in today, so, and really, this all happened like in the span of a couple of hours, and we're getting information, and we thought the best thing to do was bring it to you. It's not about
Oh,
not
absolutely,
telling him
but-
anything, it's just bringing it to you.
It's really hard to make a
So-
decision. It's
I-
really just
I mean, the alternative
see
to
what you
that,
can work out, but
the alternative to that is, you could do what other people do, which is we could rent those office trailers and set them up on the property, right? I mean, look, it's not an ideal situation, but it is what
No.
it is. So it's
But
not like we want to do it, but that's going to be the least expensive for.
Right. But here's the big question. My big question is, what you have just said, there's an imminent danger. What are we doing tomorrow?
Can I
Should be
just say
closed.
something? Like to have an
Sure.
opportunity. So I discovered this when I was working with Mango installing security cameras
How long ago?
3 years ago, 2 years ago. When did we put the server in the copy room? 3 years ago?
About three,
About 3 years ago.
2.5.
Yeah.
2.5, yeah.
And brought to the attention. And then from there, we had the engineering that did the survey of the building. And then I brought up the fact that they never pointed out that ceiling collapsing again. So having going up there and being in every single part of the downstairs ceiling, I found that the only areas that were collapsing was around Gail's room and a little bit over Jeannie's room. I didn't see anything everywhere else. It was all intact. And the reason why it was collapsing is because when they attached stuff to the ceiling, into the suspended ceiling, it's instead of going into the floor joists, they went into the lath, which pulled that sections down. So those sections are the ones that are coming down. The rest of the ceiling out over there, I found that was very intact and very strong. There's a parting wall, and it actually has the cove molding that separates that half of the building. So that's why I'd like to have a recess, and we could go down and actually take a look. Because the person that gave the information is a lead abatement person, when actually what we were trying to do is not a lead abatement, but protect the ceiling that was falling that was brought up. That was our original intent, not a lead abatement, right?
Which includes lead, right.
So, and that was over Gail's office and partially over Jeannie's,
Over
and
Jeannie's.
which also a little bit of that server room there. But, so the building's clearly separated and it's got cold molding, and the tin ceiling, everything over there, having been up there and attached stuff to it, it was strong as anything. So typically when there is a lead issue, if it's sealed in and protected, they don't require you to do it. It's
That's
once
right.
it becomes loose and the ceiling is collapsing because the ceiling wasn't suspended ceiling wasn't hung properly along with the wiring. That's what caused all that and the lead issue. So it may be that we only have to do that area. I didn't see it above the town clerk, tax collector area or that, so.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, you were there when we
Mhm.
talked to them. Their concern was that everything is attached. And so,
Not correct.
The tin ceiling, I believe they're installed in sheets, correct?
But there's a parting wall that goes all the way up with cove molding that ends it.
A
In
pardon,
between.
a petition wall?
Yeah.
So that's in place, holding up a portion of the tin in
Not
the,
holding it up, the wall, tin ceiling comes to it,
Mhm.
like you would here, and curves down with the cove molding and ends.
Okay.
And then the wall goes all the way up, and then the new one begins. So this half could be done, and that half is intact and very strong, very, very strong.
So
and
when he
intact.
went into the conference room and took the ladder and removed the ceiling tiles and looked over the copying machine, he said that there was lath coming down
Was it?
along with the ceiling tiles. And then,
it wouldn't, yes, it
And-
wouldn't hurt to confirm
Right.
that.
right, I agree.
My question, okay, is it's been confirmed that there's lead paint up there. Where, so if we are choosing to do one side that has failed or is failing in imminent danger, and we choose to ignore that other side, are we ignoring a potential hazard for the future? Or should we just take care of it all right now?
So if we're in that, if you look, this has lead paint.
Hmm.
So do we take this off? Do we strip all the halls out there? Do we take this ceiling down completely and do it? You know, it's the project, and the issue is a collapsing ceiling where it's collapsing. The other part is very structurally sound, just as this is very structurally sound. And hopefully that is up there. We could take a look.
Hmm.
But I don't feel it's necessary to go and have a ceiling and all that that's structurally sound now,
Hmm.
you just removed. I think it's, it's not that big because, we could go through this whole building. If you go through the basement, you're going to find stuff. It's an old building.
Every wall in this building ceiling
Lath and plaster, which has,
is potentially lead paint.
or asbestos.
But once it's been covered with paint that doesn't have lead in it, it's fine. And peeling lead paint is not as hazardous. The dust occurs when you take an old window and you're moving it like this, or a door, and you're not keeping it, painted. A lot of them recommend, taking a window and stripping the paint and then repainting it just because of that movement. We never open these windows.
My concern is that if you call a big contractor in to do it, they're going to make a big job out of it. And personally, I don't know if anybody else has ever lived in a house with lath and plaster.
I do.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
So
Typically, if somebody doesn't attach something properly to it,
I've had
it
it fall
pulls it down.
down too.
is there a ladder downstairs that you can take a look?
There's one here, but I did bring one just in case,
Yeah.
so I can
Yeah.
always just go grab it.
He's good. He is good.
All right, we'll go downstairs.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna recess to go downstairs.
Yeah, I'm all set.
Let's see it.
I'm just, wow. It's a little overwhelming.
I'm going to restart this.
I'm still thinking about, we've done this for 3 years.
You got what?
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so let's circle back. We went downstairs to look at the damage. What do we think? Any thoughts, Kev? You've got to leave. So
I left that ceiling tile exposed, so if that gentleman does come on Friday, he knows that he can get up in there and take a visual up there as well, a closer look, instead of trying to look from the other end of the building. Obviously, I did want to mention that if we are clearing the first floor of the building, that my department will obviously help with anything we can. We have the dollies and the equipment to move the heavier stuff. And if we don't have something to move the heavier file cabinets, then we should probably think about maybe purchasing one or two, because it is something that we do on a regular basis. That's all I can think of. It really hinges on what we get for the estimates, these companies that come in and give us an opinion on
Right.
what should be done.
I think based on the opinion, then we need to protect what else is there. We need to protect the enclosure that's there at the town clerk, tax collector's office, not so much the plexiglass. I mean, that always can get replaced, but the counters and things like that, but that kind of thing. And then the safe and files, because you can't move those. You can't move the big safe, and you can't move that big filing cabinet. I can't see those. I can't see the guys moving that. Can you? That big,
Seeing the wrong person.
Which
The big
filing
safe?
cabinet?
No.
Horizontal now?
sorry.
Horizontal or the vertical
hor-
files?
The vertical files.
Is that your license plate? Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, you're talking about the license plate one, that big heavy one? Dark gray?
Yes. That one.
That one's gotta move. That one really has to.
You're not going to move those safes. It was an incredible production to move that small safe
Right,
from
I
the old
remember
post
that.
office.
Right.
That was the smallest safe we owned. It was only about, that big?
Right.
That was an amazing production for them to move that safe out of this building.
Right.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Would it be a positive thing to maybe purchase a safe to keep at the PD, at the police department, and then after this transition is over, it stays there for them to use for their sensitive documents and things?
Well, since we're talking about the police department, does it really have to be a safe or can it be a fireproof locking file cabinet? Because, I mean, how many people break into police departments?
Inherently, it is a safe location.
You
Well,
know what I mean? I
Sort
mean,
of,
here it's different.
Mm,
You know, this, you can break into this building,
mm.
but
sort
the,
of like the vertical one that you have downstairs, that vertical file that we thought was broken in
That one, yeah, that's the safe, that's the plate safe.
the plate safe.
That's a fireproof thing and everything.
But it's
Yeah.
not really a safe, is it? It's a file. Is that really a safe? The one that has all the plates in it, that dark
Yes.
gray one, that's a safe?
That's a
Yes,
safe.
that is a safe, yes.
but a fireproof file cabinet
But I would think that'd be a lot easier to move.
would do the
than-
same
Than
job.
the other safes.
It is
that they
definitely.
did, the turn of the century ones.
Yeah, I wouldn't think those
Because
would be moved.
That
would
gray
they?
one was moved before. I
Yeah.
remember when that was moved.
Let's look
That
at the
wasn't-
plans. If you see, we have a temporary evidence room that fits the requirements to protect evidence on a level that, is that a secure area?
it-
I mean, what's the definition of where you have to store it? A secure area, does it say specifically a combination safe with cement walls like this, or
No, but
is it a
But-
secure area?
Would that evidence be compromised if a
Well-
non-police person?
correct.
So
But
I
the
can,
temporary evidence room,
Yeah, so-
perhaps they could use not use that for
well,
temporary
let me just say that this plan was from 2019. So that is actually a storage area for certain items for the detective
Mm.
bullpen. It's not used for evidence. There is an inner, outer, and special evidence rooms across the hall
Mhm.
that are very secure.
You can put it in a room, my understanding from Cindy, correct me if I'm wrong, Kim. You can have it in a room, but you and the deputy are the only ones that have access to that room, according to the DMV, for the plates and decals and things like that. Am I right?
That's right.
So no police officer or prosecutor or anything like that. Nobody can cross-contaminate
No, no,
in
no,
there. Okay, got it.
So if you had, let's say, the room that's marked temporary evidence, you could put files in there on shelves or whatever you have to do.
Depending
And-
on what's in there now.
no. Right.
Yeah. And perhaps they can move some stuff around, or any of the other rooms.
Well, I do think those two rooms next to it could be the two offices for the deputy and the clerk. And then I think you could fit that gray safe along with files and the clerk counter system, cash register, all of that there'd be plenty of room in that records
And
reception
the record
room,
reception.
So
I
what
think.
you're saying basically is if I have somebody coming in to register a new vehicle, I'm gonna have to run across the hall and go to the safe and get my plates and any other miscellaneous stuff, because we don't keep everything up at the counter.
Well,
Just
Well-
so I understand.
Well, it's within the same room. It's not, I mean,
See, I'm looking at going across the hall. I'm not
No, it's in
understanding.
the
No,
same
this.
room.
no, it would
Okay.
be in the same room. And
Okay.
that's all,
It's like
all your
being in this room.
supplies-
Kim.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I got it. That
Yep.
makes sense.
Yep.
That makes sense.
it would just be for your desk and your desktop computer and your things that you would normally do at your desk that could be across the hall.
Now,
Well, I
what,
suggest in the meantime that perhaps the clerk could be brought over to the PD to see the area.
That would be helpful.
Talk to the chief.
What you want to speak with, I'm sure you'd want to speak with the chief first, but I would love
So,
to see that.
The
So that I
chief
can
is gone.
visualize.
Who's in charge?
He's,
it's got to be the sergeants. I'm sure he's on call.
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't leave without
Right.
designating somebody in
Correct.
charge.
Right.
If he's due back tomorrow?
No,
No?
I don't know.
Oh,
I,
you
I,
don't know.
I don't know that he's gone. Did you talk? Somebody told you he was gone. Okay. Do you want to talk with him? What do you want? You want me to talk to him? You talk to him?
Whatever you want. I
It
can talk
doesn't-
to him or you can talk to him. Doesn't matter to me.
You've been doing this, it's fine with me. I think that both of you can
We
talk
could-
with them.
We could talk to him.
The two of you can talk to him. That would be fine.
mean,
No need for me to do it.
You know, and maybe there's a better solution, but that area seemed to be the most
Mhm.
logical
Mhm.
because it's contained and it can be badged in such a way that town hall employees can't access areas of the PD that they shouldn't.
Right.
And that, it makes sense from that standpoint.
So you-
And there are other locations in the PD there, the fitness room, if they had to give that up for a few months,
But we're going to
store
need
it.
a room here for sewer.
Right. So, the other thing is, I know that during the pandemic, she worked at home a lot during the pandemic. But the other thing I was thinking, which just out loud, but she maintains the same office hours as the Public Works, and so I didn't know if there's any space there, or there isn't any other contiguous space within this here at the PD.
Could she work in land use since she's?
That's
That's
a
a big
distinct
space.
possibility. Yep. I don't know about all the files.
I
I
think
think
the
you'd have
issue
to
is
have
going
a
to be
My Box for
access to
files.
files. I think we're going to need to probably access like a My Box and then have them for files.
Yeah.
Line them up for, land use, sewer, whatever. But
So we have another door, then that area won't be getting touched. And that area could be sealed off. So somebody could go in through the door and upstairs for anything that's needed. We could actually also maintain office up here.
Well, except
all of
For
the,
what?
the
our
pow-
ADA accessibility is
Yes,
gone.
and you could go down and wait on people.
She'd have to go down
But-
and wait.
Go
right,
down.
the
But
power
our
is going to be cut off.
Servers are going to be at the
And the
PD.
servers are
in
going to be at
this-
the PD. Power's not going to be here. Air conditioning's not going to be here. And this room up here reaches above 100 sometimes.
It does get hot. Yeah, it does get hot.
But again, we're
They could still access
hypothesizing
files
because
if they
we
need
don't
to.
have a plan of demolition and reconstruction.
I think it all bears on when you talk with them, you're going to talk with them on Friday.
Mhm.
When you talk with them on Friday, what a plan would be. And then we can reconvene at that point and say, here's what we got for a temporary plan. And then we could kind of go from there, what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. But this is a good starting point.
And that's just the one. I've got another environmental company that I'm talking with as well. So I'll try to find a third one, but it seems to be a challenge. So
And we're going to need a reconstruction plan. Is this company, either of these companies,
this is demolition and lead
right?
abatement.
How much do they do? Is it just demo?
I haven't asked that
Okay.
question.
So we're going to need,
We're going to need to know that. And then if not, we're going to need to search for a reconstruction company to figure that out so that they can be on board with what we're doing now. Get them on board now so that we kind of know and figure out what needs to be done.
What kind of time frame?
And
That's the big question
exactly.
I've got.
Right.
I was
Exactly.
just going to say,
Right.
most builders are building.
Meanwhile, you can get from the state exactly what the criteria is for you and what your protocol is with the plates and stuff like that. It may be that we could just put them in a file cabinet with a lock. That would be easy.
Well, fireproof. Okay.
Fireproof, right. With the lock, we don't know. And then what we need to do to have access to the files. You could figure out what we need to do to help your end of your office. And then at that point, Jeannie, once we know, then we'll get in touch with health officer and welfare to make sure that they have all their files that they need out of here. No, I'm not. At least let Heather know because she has access to downstairs. She goes in there to get files. She'll have to remove files.
So are you remaining open until, or what are you, I'm unclear. What are you communicating?
Well, that was my next question, and
Oh.
we need to figure that out. What are we gonna do now until then? It's a safety issue right now.
Well, at least I know that they said in Gail's office that it goes into my office, and you confirmed that too, it's dipping. So it doesn't sound like I should be in there or Gail should be in there.
Right.
Doesn't sound like anyone should be there down on the first floor, although you're talking about a partition wall so I don't really know. I can work from home. I can come in for meetings. Tim can work from home. Gail can't work from home because all her stuff is here. So we're going to have to move her over to the PD right away, set her up so she can work there.
When does she come back?
She comes back on Monday.
Can we try to get the chief before then? I know it's.
Yeah, I'll call him tonight.
Okay, and see what's what, and then ask if we could try to move them over. Are you on vacation or are you working from
No,
home?
I'm working.
Okay, so
Yeah.
could you possibly, if it's a go, can we get her over there by Monday?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
no,
gonna
my
have-
crew can help with
We're
that.
going to have
Okay.
to do that anyway
Yeah.
because she can't, at this point, she
Right,
can't function.
can't do it.
I can't function. All my stuff
No,
is.
she
No,
can't
it's
get to
not.
anything
You
in her
can't find your-
office.
So at the same time, we need to move Jeannie's.
Or just let me a
office.
path to my desk so I can get my stuff and take it
Mhm.
home. Like I say, I can work from home, or I could work over to the PD. It doesn't matter to me.
It
You
doesn't,
got to talk to the chief first, though.
Right.
So,
right,
I mean, as I said, the other alternative, if he's dead set against it, doesn't like it, you can rent, those construction trailers or those, they do them at the schools where they have the trailers.
and where are you gonna put them?
132?
Parking lot, gravel
Well,
lot, probably.
Then you have to have temporary service or something.
No, I'm not
Yeah,
feeling
right.
this
It's
idea. I'm
just,
just
Fiber.
alternative.
What'd you
What
say?
am I going to do? Fiber. Have to get, that's going to be
Mhm.
problematic for me.
Yeah.
Using
I have a
trailers.
feeling the chief will understand and work with us. Yeah, that we clean out the truck bay at Public Works and everybody.
Come on over. It's all good. Put you all to
Put
work
up
with a
some
piece of
cubicles.
sandpaper.
Could you please move? I gotta change a tire here, do a half hour.
Sure.
Well, we'll leave in one bay.
Just leave them one bay, okay. Oh, and
So-
the oil smell, sure.
So to the question, Tim's question, what are we doing now until, because you figure we'll meet with this guy on Friday. My goal is to meet with the other company before the Selectmen's meeting next Thursday so that I can bring something to you to make a decision whether you want to move forward or not. So that's a whole nother week that they're in their office, that Tim's in his. Gail and I are out because there's nothing functional anyway. And everybody up here so far is okay because, apparently there's nothing to worry about up there, but it's at the point when the project starts that everybody moves.
So
So
for
it's
right
real-
now, we're going to be doing demolition downstairs, whether it's in this half of the building or the whole downstairs. And even if we just do that half, no one should be in the building when that takes place. You can't control lead dust. So it seems to me we need to go through the motions now of clearing out employees from the downstairs. These workers up here seem to be all right for now. But like I said, they're going to have to go out eventually. But we have time for the second floor. The first floor, I think, is more
I think what
immediate.
Jeannie is
clerk.
asking is town clerk,
Town
tax
clerk,
collector
tax
as well.
collector, and that conference room should be accessible. Tim's room isn't hidden, but Jeannie's, the server room, and probably the cafeteria, because I didn't see how far it goes over that way, and that's on this
But
side of the wall.
Well, and
I think we can
Wait a
keep
minute.
town clerk open now.
We
But
have a known problem downstairs. You're saying leave the town clerk, tax collector's office? Yeah, go ahead. Thanks
You,
for your help.
Kevin.
Kevin, thank
But
you.
The problem is, a dangerous problem, is the ceiling collapsing over Gail's office, Jeannie's office, in that one area. The other areas, we don't have that collapsing. We have lead paint. As long as those ceiling tiles aren't all removed in that, not going to affect it. It's not a safety.
Well, peeling lead
collapse.
paint isn't dangerous unless you eat it.
But it's moving
I
away
mean,
from it though,
seriously.
right? It's sagging down, right? And you said that downstairs, down by the, in the second tile in front of,
In the hallway.
in the hallway in front of the door, that it was down and they had removed the I-beam and that was sagging down. Didn't I hear that?
They moved the supporting wall.
The supporting wall.
Okay, this supporting wall was removed.
Yep.
There were some sealing, the tins that were peeled back, but it's not collapsing. It's not all the lath and plaster collapsing
Okay.
like it was other places.
Okay.
So there, it's, you have the time, so they'll do you'll get the bid and everything on it. So they have time until everything moves.
They-
Like Jeannie and Gail have to leave
Now,
now. And Tim can go in now. Jeannie really shouldn't be going in and out of that room now that they've stirred things up. But the rest of the place, it's sealed up and nobody's flaking it or sanding it or disturbing it. And then as soon as they can, get set up over there and then just transition over to the,
I would say
New
as
location.
soon
Well,
as we can do
Well,
that, do
so,
it.
so one of the things you have to keep in mind is because of the applications, they're really tied together by avatar. So land use and the clerks need to be on that server. So I can't move somebody to the PD and leave somebody else here.
Mhm.
And when also, I'm concerned about any kind of movement in the wires or any of the wiring while anything's going on. This building with the
I
wiring
was
is
just
bad
talking till
enough.
next Thursday.
Oh, till next Thursday.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just till,
Yeah.
the bids, everything are in.
Okay.
but you can
Not
go through
disturbing
the
anything
process
until we
now of
Preparing.
get Kim over there so she
So I
can
can
see the
see.
area, figure out how you're going to set it up, where land use is going to go, how you're going to set them up.
Do
Get
we-
all that pretty well set up and then we got to move them.
Well, and the availability of the guys that I would need on my end, the week after next is a booked week. So I've got next week, I got the week after next. So and they'll work with me, maybe on the weekend or something, but because we have to, when we move the firewall and some of the other equipment here, because we got to move, well, I won't get into all the details, but there's a good amount of equipment that has to move from here over there when we make the cutover. And at that point, then they're not going to be able to do anything here. So whenever that happens.
So presently, you don't have to move anything till
Right.
once we get the bid and say to go ahead, then we'll start moving. And at that time, then, stuff
Right, we
can
can
move over there.
start planning
But
and
you can
prepping
work
now.
Oh, I can work from anywhere.
Or from wherever necessary.
If you find out on Friday that it's urgent, and you talk with the chief and it's a go, and then you think that we need to meet before Thursday, then just let us know. We'll, Monday or Tuesday, well, you have selectmen, but Monday or Tuesday, we'll put in a meeting and then hash out the details of what's going to happen. Do we need a my box? Do we need this? Do we need that? What are we going to do? And then, when are you going to push all the servers over there? When are you going to officially,
Yeah, we have to
so you
plan
could
it
put a
out.
notice on the door, then we can iron all of those out and not take up the entire Thursday night meeting where we have an agenda already banked out. We don't want to do that. Do it on a separate night. And then we've got it, and then that this is a situation that's already taken care of, and just go forward and execute it.
The sewer commission's office, are they also on our server?
Yes and no. She does use Avatar.
Mhm.
I could probably set up a remote access for her. So if she's not working in the same location as we are, but I do think, as Jeannie mentioned, in that bullpen area, there probably would be room.
Okay.
But otherwise, her needs are less. She's not having to communicate with the state, that sort of thing. Department
Not
of
like
Safety,
No,
that sort of thing. So,
no, but we have she does communicate with DES,
Hmm.
Franklin, and
right. But I mean,
the sewer
electronic.
commissioners need to be notified.
Well, aren't we?
Not officially, I'm a sewer commissioner, but the sewer commissioners,
Do you need that to be official through Jeannie or?
I think so.
Okay,
Board of Selectmen.
all right.
They often feel left out. Meetings. We often have 2 meetings simultaneously.
Right, right.
That's not going to take place at the PD. There's one meeting room.
They have 2 conference rooms. They have the smaller one.
They have a smaller conference room in the administrative portion over here, right here,
It holds about 10 or 12.
and then we have the big one here.
Okay, because
And
I
this
was
big one here
It can be
also has a
split.
petition.
going to say we have the fire commissioners that meet here.
Yep.
Perhaps they could just meet at Northfield Town Hall.
Or
It would
even-
make things easier. But those things will have to be scheduled. I know that sewer commission meets at the same time planning does. But we often don't have more than a couple of visitors, bringing us prints or whatnot.
What nights do you meet on?
3rd Tuesday.
If there's nobody at the senior center, you could just meet there.
That's true. Forgot about that. It's handicap
Well-
accessible too.
It's not 88. Is it 80? Oh, there is a ramp. Okay. All right.
Forgot about that.
Because they're meeting, is it next week we're meeting?
Yep,
Next week.
Tuesday.
So that's why they should know. They should have some particulars. And then they can make a decision on what they want to do. So they should have options. And I'm
All right.
sure that
Yep.
their secretary, Johanna would feel more comfortable not being isolated.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right, so you're gonna talk with the gentleman on Friday. You're gonna get in touch with the chief, the 2 of you. Work out some kinks, that kind of what we've gone over. And somewhere along the line, you're gonna show Kim that space.
Mhm.
And then, you'll report back to us and let us know what's happened, Jeannie. And then if we need to meet again over the weekend or Monday or Tuesday, let us know, and we'll go from there. Whether if we need my boxes or
And we also have
all kinds of stuff.
We obviously have all the plans that have the dimensions of these rooms. So, we
Right.
can also
Figure
answer
that out.
questions as to how things would fit
Yep.
temporarily.
Right.
We're also going to be wanting to talk to somebody, like I said, who's going to design our rebuild.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing.
Because
Design and rebuild.
if we're not on all of these aspects, it's going to be a 10-month project.
Well, when you talk about design and rebuild, are you talking about changing walls? I thought it was just fixing the ceiling.
If they are going to tear down all of the ceiling, what's going up in its stead? What are we putting up there for a ceiling?
Right.
And are we going to have it at the same height as the existing wall? Are we going to put it up to where the old ceiling, the plaster and the lathing was? And then if you are going to do that, are we going to extend the heights of all the office walls? Do we need to? These aren't. So do we need to do that?
Here's the,
Where is the wiring going to go? They need to go into an orderly fashion instead
It'd
of
be nice.
what
It would
you
be really
see.
great. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's why we have it at the PD.
And
It's
that's
beautiful over
that's
there.
design.
so I would recommend that we just put ceiling tiles back, but a better quality, make it look nicer, because we're gonna rip those out. They probably have stuff in them anyway, and insulate that. to rewire it, even if you have walls like this, now a lot of the wires are coming down into the
Right.
walls. Now you would have to go through the basement, turns.
There's got to be junction boxes there that they can start from. There's got to be something. But who's going to decide? I mean, what plan are you going to look at to decide that? I mean, I can sit here and say, yeah, just put suspended ceiling up. Where do those wires go? It's just, it's like, I don't know who said it. Some might be, I think Kevin did. Some might be live, some might be dead.
Mhm.
If you ever have to go up there and repair a line, wouldn't it be nice to identify it now while the ceiling is completely open? This is the wire to whatever.
A lot of dead telephone wires up there.
Yeah.
We
There's
know
a
that.
lot-
don't
So
lot
we have
of
an
stuff,
opportunity to make sense of what's up there.
Straighten it out.
Yeah.
Straighten it out, yeah.
That'd be
Because
nice.
people ran wires like diagonally and
Right.
hooked it on this or tied it on with a wire tie on that. So they could go and they can put high on this wall, junction box for, and then run the wire correctly into the
Yes.
room.
I mean, is it BX cable? I didn't see it. It must be BX cable
Little
too.
everything? No,
There's no BX?
very, very little.
Tell me there's no knob and tube.
There's no knob and tube.
Hey, I've been into some of these buildings and they're still using the knob and
Oh, yeah.
tubes.
I did, I almost did
Yeah.
till
So we moved over.
2012.
So
Yeah,
that's
10
what I'm
years ago.
saying. If we're gonna do this, let's do it right. And
Yep.
maybe the trades themselves will design, their portion of it. Don't know. Depends on who you talk to.
And insurance company.
Hmm.
That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Figure
There's a
out.
lot of good builders in town.
I mean, I don't know if what constitutes covering for insurance, but if the ceiling starts collapsing as opposed
That's
to
what I
lead
thought,
abatement,
too. Yeah.
it's a completely different situation than just lead abatement. So it
Can't
start
we
collapsing.
blame it on the water leaks we've had?
Oh,
Water does terrible things to plaster.
yeah. There, you can see signs of the water leaks and all that, but the key thing is that it started collapsing, pulling down.
I'm thinking of insurance terms though.
Hmm.
If you have it rained in the building. I
Yeah.
still remember that.
Yeah.
The waterfall.
Well, and whatever insurance doesn't cover, you have to balance the projects with the money that's available, or else, have to hold a special meeting. So as I said, you can get to a good amount of money, depending upon some of the projects that you might have to take another look at for ARPA that haven't been started or completed yet. So, that's the other consideration that I'll be looking at. So that when you do look at whatever money is brought back for, a proposal of some kind, I'll also have the kind of, the priority list of what's already been approved, what the status of those are, what could be pulled back from that, and what money is available between that, town hall maintenance and repairs, and the new capital reserve fund that we have. That'll get us probably a good way there. Maybe it'll do the whole thing. I don't know.
What's in the Bali account?
In the what?
The Bali account.
Zip, zero,
There's gotta
zilch.
be a lot of interest in that one.
I have to, this will be a good example of,
We must have had leftovers from last year.
I sometimes have to have the discussion with the board when asked, that's all taxpayer money. Why can't we return it all to taxpayers? Because if we had a catastrophic event happen, then we would have, well, it's their money, and so this is a perfect example of, unforeseen.
I wish Joe was here.
No comment.
Yeah.
Is there any cash in that?
I have to see what would make sense, what we can legally do. So that's what I need to look at
I'm thinking this is
over the next week.
150,000 easy.
Yeah, oh yeah. I think
Easy.
so. Yep.
Easy.
Oh, yeah,
That's
more
a
than
good
easy.
start.
More than easy, because I think it's going to rebuild.
I heard I heard 345 today.
Woo, okay,
That was not rebuild. That was just demo and
demo and
Well,
get rid of
the
it.
insurance is going to have that'll have a big impact, whether there's any insurance money that would qualify, I think, for the damage portion.
You'll have to do a lot of squeaking on that one.
what do you mean squeaking?
Squeaking. Squeaky oil gets, squeaky wheel gets the oil. So you'll have to convince them that it's covered under insurance.
To point out to them that.
Point out,
They'll send
it's
their
not
own.
an act of God. It is water damage, some of it. Up here, of course, it's water damage, but, I mean, what are you supposed to do? It's old.
The
They may or may
waterfall
not
went
buy
all the
it.
way to the basement.
What's that?
Don't you remember the waterfall went all the way to the
Yes,
basement?
it did. Yes, it did.
That frame around the bathroom area is still warped.
Yep, all the way down.
All right,
Flood.
so we have,
So for the second floor in the clerk's office, you're open until further notice.
yes.
Hopefully not long.
Right.
Hopefully not long, because we need to shut the building down. As soon as we can get all these questions
Yeah.
answered. The sooner we get the questions answered, the quicker we can act.
We know we're gonna move everybody out, so it's just
Matter of time.
phase 1, 2, 3. I mean,
Right, right,
who'd have thunk it?
right.
When I came here, I had no idea.
At least it's
When I
not
woke
winter.
up this morning,
Yeah.
Who'd have thunk
Hey,
it?
that
Yeah.
too.
Be worse.
welcome back, Catherine. All right, is there any more business to come before us? You look like you're just ready to. All right, then I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Aye. Adjourned.
Oh, Jeannie, I just saw your email.